Hey, leader, 10 years ago, we put out a book called Figure That Shift Out. We're celebrating the 10-year birthday with 10 stories of transformation of people who went through Figure That Shift Out and experienced a completely new level. They didn't get there by pushing harder in the pressure. They learned how to see clearly who they are in the best and worst of moments. We could say how they could relax into their brilliance. Listen in on these stories as you consider what might be possible for your own transformation. Welcome, everybody. Sight Shift Podcast. So glad you're here. Fun series we're doing, celebrating Figure That Shift Out, turning 10. We're doing 10 stories for 10 minutes, 10-minute shots, hearing from people. Now, it's been super fun for me to do these and connect you to people I've met over the last decade. This one's different. My guest today, met him in 2002. And like no other friendship I have, immediate connection that has only stayed deeper and continued to deepen through all the seasons. And so I get to introduce you all to someone who is no doubt weaving in and out of all the books, all the content at different moments. My friend, Tim McLeroy. Tim, so glad to have you here on the podcast, my man.
Well, thanks, Chris. This is awesome. Always good to talk to you, but especially when we're talking about and celebrating some of the things that I would say that we've done together, and
Ooh.
obviously what you continue to refine and bring to the marketplace, which it's awesome. So, it's always an honor and a privilege. So, thanks, Chris.
Thanks, man. Well, just to give people some context, let them know a little bit about your role, what you're passionate about, and then we'll go into our backstory.
Yeah, so I'm one of those guys now that I can say 30 years in the pharma business. I'm one of those guys. I started with hair and all this was not great. But it's led to the experience, and now I'm actually kind of on the other side of the table, actually working for a company, Noble, in which we actually support pharma and a lot of patient, and really I call us a patient experience innovation company, that we actually look at the challenges that patients have, especially when it comes to self-administered products, and we build a better experience when they start that. And from what we know is if a patient starts a therapy correctly, it increases the odds that they're going to benefit from the medication, and then it's better for companies. And I've been doing the role I'm at now is I've been in about a year and a half. I say a year officially. I've had multiple roles since I've been at Noble for the last 5.5 years, but I'm kind of the visionary guy that's out on the edge, trying to do new things and bring solutions. And so, yeah, I work and live in nebulous spaces. Templates aren't always there to follow, but it's a blast. I'm having more fun now, especially not only in the work, but with the team that I work with. It almost feels like cheating that I get to go to work. I have
Mm.
a phrase that we say, I love Mondays because I love what I do. I love the team that I'm doing. I love when we accomplish good stuff. So why would I dread a Monday? I actually look forward to it. I don't cry on Saturdays and Sundays because I don't have work. But my mind is always thinking about that kind of stuff. So yeah, a little bit of
Thank you. Well, I think everybody just heard like this is why I can be in the middle of something and Tim and I connect and it's this like shot of wisdom that just brings it right to the focus point I need to be zeroed in on. And yeah, I've had a front seat view to Noble really since like 2015. And you're taking the vision further and it's so obvious to see that. Now, here's what's really cool that I want to share with the listeners because there's really two backstories with us. One is the point of these episodes is we're celebrating Figure That Shift Out turning 10. So in 2015, it's this coaching program. But before it was a coaching program, it was emails and audios I was sending to friends. Before it was that, I was doing these retreats. And before it was that, I was just helping people as they came to me. And the first official one, I was trying to think about the time on this, man. I think it was like 2010. You'll have to help me remember if this matches up when you were in Wisconsin, but Tim and I are connected. We've been connected for about 8 years at this point, and he watched me really say no to like an ambitious future that would have been kind of handed to me, but it wasn't my authentic path. He was side by side on that. He was the first person I said it out loud to that, like, I think my life is supposed to take this different path. He watched me hit the complete bottom and didn't let me just suffer with empathy, but has shown up with mercy many times in practical ways. But you were seeing some things in me that I'm discovering this rediscovery of what's true, ancient wisdom. And you were like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you go, man, whatever is happening, I want some of that. You and your wife Amanda came down. My wife watched your kids and our kids. We set up metal folding chairs in the master bedroom, and I just took you through the rudimentary stuff I had at that point, which was horrible. Like you were if we made the analogy to Noble, it was like the first injections where we're trying to do auto injections.
It was the best session and the worst session that you ever did for
That's such
that
a great
moment.
that's such a great way to frame it. And I know, man, this is like way back with the cobwebs and but do you remember anything about that moment that made you want to make that kind of time investment to come down and what was the hunger and what was appealing in that moment?
Yeah, I think I go back to honestly in that time, there were some challenges that my wife, Amanda and I were having, and it was probably more based upon my insecurities than anything else. And so for, listening to the way you were articulating uh, I don't want to say solutions, but transformation.
Mm,
It resonated, and I think for me and Amanda, and we saw this even working into how does this translate into a marriage relationship? Listen, like I think where I look at it is like you think you're guarding your insecurities, and your spouse knows them better. They'll articulate them much more clearly than you will at any point, and then so. I think really it was one of those things, it maybe been a little bit of duress at that time, but there was at least enough truth that was coming out of it that I like. It was worth us going down and spending time. And, as we've gone through iterations or you've gone through iterations and, our families played a part in working and helping and refining that message, I think it is fundamental allowing yourself to maybe like have a foundation of defining where you're at as that person, as that point, and then allowing revelation of what needs to happen to where you need to go. It's, those pieces are there, but I think from the way approach with figure that shift out and site shift is really it gets down there super quick, right? I know I've listened to you in rooms and speak, and like you would think that you're like the mentalist and you can figure out, no, you've just studied people.
mm,
There's a lot of repeat issues that people have, but you're able to refine and get to it quickly. You don't need this huge, long, drawn out time to actually get to a point where, like, well, if you accept this, if you will work on this, if you're dealing with this reality, if you will grasp that you can change it, right? And so it is a shift, right? That's why we call it figure that shift out because you need to pivot, right? It's understanding what needs to change or where you need to pivot, and then giving you the tools and I would say the encouragement to make that leap and make that pivot.
mm. I love the way you just framed all that. I mean, and clearly, you grasped that vision. You weren't afraid. You leaned into that work because the first retreat I did, which I do think was 2010. So this would have been a little bit after you guys had come down. For the listeners, Tim showed up, brought somebody, fixed the food. I mean, dude, that was just that's like a special core memory in the site shift lore in my mind now. So how would you articulate like what you were seeing transformation wise that would motivate you to be involved like that and want to bring somebody? Where does that take you?
Well, yeah, I look at it. It was always a good time. I think some of the tools that I look at, and obviously we're talking about proving and hiding, different things
Mm,
like that. I almost call it voice recognition software.
mm,
Like what are you hearing in your head? What is like, it makes you pause and think about those emotional reactions that you're having at that moment. The emotional reaction isn't positive or negative. It's actually an opportunity to read the situation, to read your own self, right?
Yeah.
And then determine from there, how do you want to react, right? Then that becomes like, are you proving and hiding after this emotional reaction? I think it's one of those, I look at it even now, I think, you know, even the other day I go back to, it brought me back to a couple of years ago when you kind of more formalized the course and
Hmm.
we went through it and I did all the things, pretty much knew everything already. But, I remember when you came back with one of the final coaching things, this was your challenge to me. That was, you said, Tim, in your leadership, you need to push out in such a way that it seems almost audacious, that it almost seems arrogant in the way you're presenting yourself. And for most people, they'll just hear it as quiet confidence, right? But
Yeah.
in my mind, it was like having to get past maybe something insecure, like I don't want to bother you, don't want to interrupt you, but actually realizing I have something valuable to say, I have valuable input that I need to put in some of these situations, and then I need to push it out even further. I even just literally last week used that in terminology with my company, just talking with some of the things and the value and products and solutions really that we're bringing to the medical community, that it's okay to understand that we are the expert. Nobody is doing what we're doing. And it's not being arrogant to say that we can, in essence, promote or communicate. We need to communicate. Sound feels like promotion, but it's actually communicating to our stakeholders the value of the solutions that we bring. The experience that we have is something that they don't have, and this is why we should partner. So at times it may feel almost like, say, it was challenging us to feel audacious. And in the end, probably the customer is always, they're hearing like, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. So, I don't know. Does that seem to
Yeah.
connect? And I see it both of what I've years ago and still even applying into the work that I'm doing today.
Man, I mean, it's firing me up to hear that, and I think that for listeners, just to get this, like, it's the opposite of that arrogance, that quiet confidence. It's a humility because, please, no one listening miss this. Tim's a part of it in like 2009 in a rudimentary way, at a retreat event in 2010. He's helping shape and form it. I mean, he's a part of it. We're relationally connected. We're super tight. Then, still, when it gets formalized into the coaching program in 2016, I think it was, you were like, dude, I want to go through it. And that kind of humility takes the insight further. And now here we are. And I think a really fun backstory to share, and we'll close with this, is that, we have a lot of activity in Orlando, and there's a guy who's done a lot of the referrals lately. I've called him the father of Orlando transformation. There's another guy who was the leader of Noble, who's like the grandfather, which makes Tim the great grandfather, because it was Tim who basically said, after they had closed a big deal that was in Noble's favor when you were at another pharmaceutical company, hey, you basically owe me one. Just have this guy come in and speak one time. Led to an
Yeah.
8-year relationship.
Yeah. My challenge to him was like, listen, you don't owe me, but you owe me. But I'm like, I said, you need to bring in Chris for your company, for your culture. And I said, one time. I said, all that I need for you is to bring him in, speak to your company one time. If you don't like it, it's all good. But I tell you what's been really fun too, coming in and working now with Noble, is simply for the fact that for a lot of the folks that are veteran folks that have been here at Noble for a while, they all understand site shift, right? We can even use it in meetings. We can even use it in conversations around a challenging customer. We can literally like say, oh, that customer, they're acting out of an insecurity, and like we can even like we don't even have to ask them, we can see it, and then there's ways that we're even able to modify our approach to like lessen that anxiety that customer is having, and actually give them what they need to not have that resonate within them and challenge them. So it's interesting. It's just fun. We've had multiple guys that have and girls that have gone through the whole site shift stuff, even paid for it for their spouses to go through. We see that it resonates into family life, into marriage life, and obviously still with business, but it's amazing when you affect the personal, it affects so many other things, right?
Everything
So
else. Yeah. I have to just say this, and somebody read chapter 11 and figured that shift out one time and said, man, you use the word love a lot there. Like that's kind of weird, business and leadership. Tim exemplifies exactly what figure that shift's about. When you become secure in your identity, clear in your mission, you build a healthy community. I can take members of people that he has led on teams and ask them, did he create a sense of belonging where you knew you were cared for? Off the charts, they would say, this is the best leader I've worked for. So I honor you with that. And let's normalize it because we say it to each other on the phone. I love you, dude. More love. Doesn't hurt
yeah.
us, makes us better. Um, Thank you for being here. I'm so glad
No,
everyone could
Chris,
hear your
it's an honor
story.
and a privilege. I love where you're taking it. And like, the joke is like, we're on such parallel paths on stuff, even what we're doing right now with our, oh, why didn't we just start here? Um, I say that, but it's, it's not cliche, but man, it's the journey that refines too, right? I think it's being equipped for the journey, which I think figure that site shift out does. But then it's being open to let also the experiences guide you and shape you. And man, life is good. I know there's a lot of challenges, but when it comes down to it, like I said, I speak and use it every day in our family. Like I said, it translates into work. So I just, Chris, this didn't just happen. It was work and sweat and equity, and a lot of risk taking.
Hmm.
But I tell you, I'm glad you took this path versus maybe the easy path that was available to you 24 years ago. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you, man, because there are private moments where you kept it alive and honoring that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. What a joy to share this moment with you all that Tim and I have had. Thank you, Tim. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for listening in as we dove into the story of transformation as someone went through Figure That Shift Out. We're celebrating 10 years, 10 stories, and I don't want it just to be something you listen to. Explore what might be possible. Imagine how far you might go in your leadership. And join one of our Figure That Shift Out coaching groups, work with one of our certified coaches. I look forward to hearing about the transformation that you go through as a result of Figure That Shift Out.